love reading so much!
Hey.
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 All right.
Dave.
What's up?
Andrew.
I'm going to keep myself muted until I talk, just because I have 2-year-old duty right now. And we're blasting Cinderella. So
Hey, background music.
Yeah.
We're gonna let people come in for a little bit.
What's up, guys?
What's happening? So who actually read the whole book is what I want to know.
I listened to it.
I listened to it all.
Yeah.
Did everybody listen
everything.
to it?
I skipped the last 10 minutes where he's thanking his kid, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I did too. I really did. I finished chapter 10 minutes ago.
Same.
Yeah.
Is that how you were in school, Dylan, when you had an assignment? You would wait
100%. I would do my homework on the school bus.
Is everybody here? Are we all printers, or are there people that aren't printers? Kind of. So.
Well, you've got Dylan.
We print Dave's stuff.
Right. Dylan prints my stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Dylan's the printer, but that's about it, though.
I hardly ever actually print.
Hey, that's not fair.
At some point in time, Dylan printed my stuff.
I still print stuff. Just not as much anymore from my desk.
Not from your brother printer. We're talking like screen printing.
Right,
Okay.
right. Yeah.
I don't print. I do the embroidery. My husband prints.
You yell at him?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I check his work all the time too, make sure he's in registration and all that good stuff. He appreciates it.
I bet. Amy told me she's here to yell at us about how horrible this book was.
That was a good book.
I have a lot of feelings about this book.
Audio is okay. I can't get the ones where that's the author reading because they can't read.
Tonight's Thursday, so it's steak night, and we left the shop early so we could do the whole normal night before I did this thing. And I made them listen to chapter 9 and 10 in the car on the way to get steaks and back. And they were like, this is so fucking awful. The narrator is so boring. He sounds like a robot.
He's awful.
It was a pretty tough listen.
Speed them up to 1.5%.
Yeah, I should have. So Andy, why did you pick this book?
I'm going to take the heat for this, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I really liked the title because
You're one of those guys.
well, it spoke to me because I, in a lot of my negotiations, actually have split the difference before. And I'm like, never split the difference. Like, why? I don't get it. Like, I thought that was like fair compromise, right? Aren't we? You know, when two people who are trying to negotiate something are this, an equal distance apart, and then you just meet in the middle. I always looked at it as like, oh, win-win, and apparently it's not. So, I like that title, and I like the fact that his background. So I figured if anybody knows how to negotiate, a guy who's been a hostage negotiator for 30 years, it seems like he would.
Right. Like he's seen some shit for sure.
he's probably seen some shit, and he went and rewrote the whole, he went to Quantico and rewrote the whole entire negotiation, playbook, and so it sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and how, of course, it translates to business. Of course, it translates to your kids. Of course, it translates to just everything. Mm-hmm. As far as the book right out of the gate, it probably was the wrong one to choose, just because at times I felt like I was like, oh my God, like I read it and I don't think I learned anything like from this chapter. I don't know how to apply it, I should say.
Yeah.
Because I got confused, it became at times maybe a little much. And so it wasn't until I went and watched a YouTube video summary that
you fucking cheated.
Well, because
I didn't do that. I'm the one who should be doing that, not you.
He didn't even read it, and he got the Spark Notes version.
Oh, you dick.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of, it connected all the dots for me. Like it made sense finally, because I felt like after I watched that I could put it to use, or at least start to, I probably would get it wrong the first few times or whatever, but I could start to try some of these things. And I noticed I did some of them just like out of instinct, just being through a bunch of negotiations before or whatever. I just was I think a lot of people probably naturally do some of them, but, I just to put it all together as like a strategy throughout the whole negotiation. I've never really done that before, but I can tell you this much: today, I used it.
Yeah,
and it worked.
What did you use today specifically? How did you do it?
Well,
right,
it probably helped that
Dylan?
he knew what you were talking about.
No. So I used it with. All right. The story goes, we were contacted to print a hot market for the Chiefs a few weeks back. And we passed on it because the price, really. And then also at the time we had work. And so we passed. And the championships were last weekend. And then I was like, oh, man, maybe we should have done that because we started off the week slow. We got busier now. But I thought to myself, maybe I should have taken that deal, or maybe I should have, or tried to negotiate it or whatever. But today I look at my phone. I had to go to the dentist in the morning. Bummer. But I look at my phone as I'm coming out and I see this email from him. And it says, hey, I could really use 3 presses in your market. Let me know if you're interested. And so I replied back that if, the terms are right, then we're in. And he said, okay, well, he sent over the contract and it was the same fucking terms as last time. And so I used this. I used when he says, it seems like he wants you to use that. So I said, it seems like you need a badass printer in this market because I saw that I had leverage, right?
And he was like, all right, yeah, you're right. I guess I'll go somewhere else.
Okay, how do I mute you again? Oh yeah, right here. Hold on. So I used that. I said, it seems like you need a printer in this market. And then I put I said, but here's my pricing. And I put that anchor, like a high anchor. Actually typed in 3 different ones. So the first one I typed in, I'm like, here's what I normally kind of would, it just out of habit, I suppose. And then I backspace and I put in a new one, and then I put in even a higher one. I was like, well, whatever, fuck it. I'm just going to put this number. Like, if we don't do it, we don't do it. Or he's going to counter, right? Because he seems like he needs somebody here. And so he's going to counter. And I thought to myself, if he counters, I'm just going to counter with, instead of the number I chose, I was going to go like 3 cents down or whatever, just some odd number. But he just replied back and said, deal. And he sent me the paperwork. Wow. I signed it. I did a what's it called? I had to do a DNA. He called it. I had filled this DNA paperwork, which they called it the DNA for your shop. Like, they want to know everything that was about us, like how many docs and this kind of thing. And then I signed the contract, and so we're in. If the Chiefs win, Chiefs could lose. So,
how many pieces?
They had us commit to. This is how it goes. They had us commit to 16 hours of continuous printing at 360 pieces an hour on 3 presses.
Oh, I was going to say, what if you just did like 3 pieces an hour?
He said, they said 360 an hour, and which is, I think, really reasonable. It's just 30 dozen.
Per press,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it worked, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't believe it. When I saw that email come in that it worked, I was like, no way. And I told Jojo, maybe it was just, luck or whatever, but.
I love how you got the deal. We both had the deal at the same time, and we both agreed to not do it, and that we were going to stick it to the man. And now I hear on a public platform that you screwed me over and took the deal and got more money. Time out. So what happened to Buffalo? See, it's a good thing you did it.
Oh,
yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I mean,
I literally have no idea because I don't listen or watch any sport, so I have no idea if Buffalo's in it or not.
Yeah, well, they're not anymore, and I would have. You were the first person I called after that and said, "Hey, Dylan, guess what? You can
guess what? He said he'll do it for $1.05."
I don't know. So yeah, that's why, I guess that's why I chose the book, is because negotiations is like an everyday thing. I've done it with cars, with houses, with so many things. And I thought that wouldn't be a bad idea to see how like the pros do it. And even if I don't take anything away from it and decide to not, use it at all, just hearing a different perspective was pretty cool.
I think a lot of it was just like nice to hear how to like reverse engineer that kind of stuff, because us as printers are constantly getting people trying to haggle us. And now we can see like the markers that they're using and be like, I know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, that was my experience from this week, and exactly what you're saying, because my wife has a master's degree in psychology, and we were negotiating where we were going to get dinner a few nights ago. And I'm like, oh, what a perfect chance for me to try this. I'm going to try some mirroring. And so we're talking about which places. And every time she suggested a place, I was like, sushi? And so after about the third time, she goes, if you fucking mirror me again, I'm going to slap you in the fucking face.
Busted.
Yeah. So she knew like all the tricks. So I took my shot and failed miserably. Lost. She got everything she wanted.
Amy, you said you tried it and it worked, right?
Yeah. I tried there was one small little chapter where it said how to always get a response from email.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had emailed a customer that we've worked with a little bit and just been like, hey, looking forward to working with you in 2021. We're adding embroidery. We have a new sales guy. Like, is there anything we want to work with you again? And I didn't get a response. And I was super annoyed by it because he and I also serve together on a board at a nonprofit. So it's like, we're not friends, but like, he's also just not a customer. Like, we see each other regularly. So I was like, God, that guy. So I read that chapter, and then the idea was that you send somebody an email where you phrase it in such a way that their response is no, which then if they don't feel no, it prompts them to respond, whereas they might not.
They don't want to have a loss.
Right. And so the subject of the email was, so you're saying that's a no? And I never talk like that. And I felt really gross about it. Minutes later, he responded, like minutes. And I was like, oh, holy shit, that worked.
Wow.
Yeah, I felt that way about a lot of this book, that like most of the stuff that he wants you to do is like way out of my comfort zone. Like, I just don't have it in me to, I guess, talk like that a lot of the times.
Well, I feel like the basic premise was based on these negotiations where there's a clear good guy and a clear bad guy.
Right.
And in business, that's not true. Or when you're dealing with your employee or your kid, that's not true. And so he has that part about never compromise. Like, compromising is wearing 2 different colored shoes. That's a compromise. And I disagree with that. Like, I think that was my problem with the whole thing, is like, yeah, it's easy to negotiate when you're the good guy and you're saving somebody's life, but that's not like always the case in business.
Mm-hmm. Like, the one that made me feel the creepiest was, I know we're skipping ahead, but like, what was it? It was like the 2 brothers, and then there was like the third partner or whatever, and they were trying to buy out the business because he needed money, and his wife was like selling stuff on eBay, and it just felt really shisty.
Yeah, that one felt really, really skeezy.
Yeah.
Like the wife was just going behind everybody's back, and then she was getting all mad about it and everything too.
But it's my understanding the wife was stealing the inventory and then selling it on eBay.
Yeah, and then it was because they found out that yeah. But in the end, it kind of redeemed himself a little bit and just said, like, if you take away anything from this book, it's that you need to get over the fear of conflict, even if it's like little stuff. And that's definitely something that like I have, like even with my own employees or anything, like I just don't love conflict at all. And they know that. which kind of gets me in trouble a lot of the time because they know I'm not going to put up a stink about something. So I think
it's more so the trying to navigate the conflict. Like that,
Right.
that's the hard part for me, because I can take it to level 10, no problem, but I'm trying not to get to level 10, and I'd rather, try to navigate through it. But it's the skill set I'm trying to actually navigate through it. That's the part that needs the practice.
Yeah.
There's also something to be said for the old styles, the Roger Fisher that he mentions at the beginning, with everything is a very, sensible, rational proposal and whatever. That is so easily countered that going to a little bit of a gut wrench can kind of reset things and start from a better position for you.
Right.
And I haven't finished the book yet. I didn't find out about it till a couple days ago. But
we'll summarize it for you. Andy will send you the YouTube link that just covers it all in like 2-3 minutes.
There we go. Cliff Notes. I'm in.
Right.
So Dylan, you felt like you feel like you can't. You feel uncomfortable in all negotiations?
Not all of them. I just feel like, I don't know. It's not necessarily negotiations. It's just more when I know I have to. I guess it's a negotiation. Anytime you're trying to talk to somebody through something or change the status to something, I feel like it's a negotiation of some kind. But I feel like it's just hard for me to navigate that stuff. I feel like I always get like my heart gets pumping, and like I don't want the conflict. I want everybody to be happy, and I just want people to be. I always say like, why can't everybody just be like an adult and like take care of their stuff? But that's not always the case. And as a business owner, I feel like I have to step in sometimes and like talk about that stuff, and it sucks and I hate it. But a lot of the stuff in this was like tips and tricks a little bit to like level the playing field, and kind of like it gave me a little bit better of an idea on how to do that.
It gives you another angle, another
Right.
approach. Because
a lot of it was just kind of like affirmation that like I didn't just think that on my own. Like it's a real thing, and this is how people do that and get out of that kind of thing. So
right. I'm very similar to what Dylan's saying. Like, we've consistently had employees that like they just won't show up on time. And I'm the same way. It's like, well, I don't want to go yell at this guy. I don't know. I can't justify going to that level. So I personally struggle with an issue of being like too lenient and then being 10. Like,
right.
God damn it. Like, just show up on time. And like you said, like, just be an adult. You can't get here by like
right.
9 o'clock in the morning, like, and you live 15 minutes from here. Like, but I took away some of that as well. Like, other ways to approach the situation and try to also somewhat be like mindful of what, it seems like you don't want to show up and work on time. What's going on? And then if it's like, well, I got to get my kid to here and this, and it's just really hard for me to get here at 9. And it's like, oh, well, problem solved. We just come in at 9:30, and then now that's your schedule, and then problem solved. And then no one's frustrated, and that guy's in a better place. And it's not necessarily a negotiation really, but a new perspective on how to approach a situation.
Well, now I know that when they come in and I say, you showed up late, and they said, I didn't show up late. And then I go, you didn't show up late?
It seems like you showed up 6 hours late.
Right.
That's the extreme.
It seems like I should dock your pay for showing up late. One of the things I thought was really cool in the beginning of this book was when he was talking about being like the new guy or not the scholar. And he went to that university and then had like the 3 people sit down with him and like try to like rattle his cage or whatever. And he had like all the street smarts and they had like the book knowledge. And then he just walked in there and like changed their minds and was like, oh shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. I feel like for me, that was like super important because there's been a lot of moments in my life where like I basically came from like being shitty in school, dropping out of college, starting this business and then like showing people up, or like just the way I dress and I show up to like a corporate meeting. It's kind of funny when you walk in and they're like expecting you to trip and fall, and then you actually know what you're talking about and you like over deliver on what they needed. So I thought that was like pretty cool.
That was the one where he sat down and they were like, we have your kid. We need X amount of money. And then the question was, how am I supposed to get that? Like that seems like a tactic to be like, how do you expect me to do that? Like, how do you expect me to do this job for that amount of money? Like, I can't pay my people for that.
Right. I liked that aspect just because it was like, you know, for you could twist that on to like the low ballers and stuff for your job. And, you know, depending on the conversation or whatever, but you can use that of how am I supposed to be able to do that job and kind of have them solve the problem for you in a sense. Like you're making them think versus you having to trip over yourself and figure everything else out while they're just sitting there trying to get the cheapest price possible.
Yeah, that was
open-ended question people will run with and spill their beans with. It's
right.
Good.
They'll show their cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the letting them like doing the pause so that people keep talking. That's something, that was a tactic in there that I definitely fill up space whenever I'm trying to talk to somebody, and like, you know, that could be really useful in negotiation to just be quiet for a minute and like let them solve a problem.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for me. If I'm in a quiet room trying to negotiate with somebody and there's just like a dead silence, I always feel like I need to kind of fill it in. And that's what the author was saying too. You just, like he had one of his students just mirror him for over an hour or something in one of the stories, and they were just laughing about it because they'll just continue to talk, and you know, being able to pause can make the biggest difference in the world because then it's making the other people think. But it goes with their personalities too that he was talking about. Like you need to be able to identify which personality is like I forget the names of them, but there's like the thinker, the arrogant one, and one other I can't remember right off the top of my head. But if you're able to identify those, then it will help your negotiating skills significantly.
It was also kind of cool that like in that scenario of him going to the university and stuff, it was kind of like what I like to do and like what me and Andy are doing with shirt show stuff is just kind of like getting to know other print shops and how they operate and what they're doing. And it just like melds minds together of like, oh, I figured that little thing out, or now you know, and then you can carry it to the next place and stuff like that. And it's like, it's cool that he traveled around and basically learned the tactics and things from other people. And do any of you guys do that? Like travel around to other places, other shops? And I mean, everybody I feel like on Instagram nowadays talks to each other, but
try to stop in and do shop tours.
You can come to my shop.
I totally down. I'm heading that way. No, anytime like I'm in a different town or something, I'll try and just like look up somebody, even if I don't know them. And last one I like cold called. Oh my gosh, what was the name of his shop? It is in Boise, Idaho, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, come on over." And now we're all friends and it's fun, and his shop's growing, and so we chat back and forth. But I love to go see other people's shops. It's just like my people, you know, people who like know what I'm going through and stuff, and I know what they're going through, and it's just kind of fun.
I think that's safe as long as you're not in your town, because I found out the hard way. Yeah. I had somebody from our shop stop by a different shop, and I didn't know he was going to do that. And then I got a phone call the next day, and they said, "Hey, like, what the hell? You know, you sending in people to spy on our shop?" And I like accusational against me. I'm like, "What do you mean? Who was even in there?" You know. And so
you should have just mirrored them.
Spying on your shop. Yeah. So I think it's safe if you're traveling for sure. I really love that too. Stopping in and checking out different shops in totally different town, because I don't think they're threatened then, like competition wise. Typically aren't threatened then. So
we've only recently somewhat become on good terms with the other shop here in town that's of our size, and he and I have actually gone in together to bulk buy some supplies, and we went in together to buy like a shitload of blank boxes and things like that. But even when I did that, like jointly spending like a couple $1,000s together, even after that, when I went over he had some of his stuff was delivered, some of the stuff was delivered to his shop, some of it to my shop. And so I'm like, well, I'll bring over this stuff and then I'll pick up that stuff. Even when I went over to his shop, he's like, well, I'll just meet you at the dock. And I'm like, all right, man. Like, it's also like, you're on Instagram, right? So like, I already know what your shop looks like. Like, I don't know what it smells like, but I've already seen
secret.
It all. Yeah, that's the secret.
Are we maybe just a little bit lucky in this industry that there's enough to go around? Because I don't know about other industries, but it does seem like people do share knowledge a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of a newer thing, honestly, for this industry to just start actually sharing everything with each other. I mean, when I first got into it, it was all kind of a top secret thing. There was only like Cat Spit and Ryan starting to show some stuff, but everybody was still kind of closely guarding everything. You may find a nice guy on like shirt boards, but that's about it. It wasn't until probably like the last 7 years or so that it started really opening up. At least for me, that's what it seemed like.
Well, even the podcast shirt show is just amazing knowledge drops. Like, people are just so willing to share.
You just got to get past the two weirdos.
The two creepy perverts. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, like the whole thing with sharing is it's kind of like, I feel like before it was very, like everybody was concerned that the custom inks and the Easy Tees and the O shirts and all those kind of places were going to take over, because it was like anybody knew. And then like, I feel like a lot of shops banded together and started sharing knowledge and like grew to be more niche shops, and they up their customer service and they up their game, and like stuff like Instagram just makes you want to make your shop better and make your quality better, because we all have that competitive edge so that we want to like fight with each other, but also be like best buds. And then it kind of makes places like Custom Ink and all those places now look more like the place you go when you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? It makes you want to go there if you're like, I need, my aunt's cousin's brother needs a couple shirts for a reunion. It's like, oh, go to Custom Ink. But if you want actual good, cool shirts that have high quality, then go to this shop or this shop or this shop or whatever. So
I think it's also trended to be, it's cool to buy local.
Yeah.
So, you have that going for you in your city anyway, is that it's cool to use somebody in your town. Before, I don't know if I really don't think it mattered as much, and it started to go everywhere, to Custom Inks, but I think it's come back to locals, a cool thing.
I think another cool thing about sharing is the more that you share, the more people are going to comment back or DM you and say, A, either that's incredible, that's how we do it, or B, nah, that's fucking wrong, that sucks, that's inefficient, you need to be doing it like this. And that can either be a good thing or a bad thing. It's either going to reaffirm the process that you're doing whatever you're doing, but it could also give you some new ideas that actually make you rethink your entire production or however you're running your business.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Agree.
I feel like some of you guys are just using tactical empathy and strong listening right now.
That's me.
Strong listening?
Tactical empathy and strong listening?
Yeah. They're using the book knowledge against us in our own chat.
That's another takeaway I had, I guess, is listening more, because there's lots to find out, like the black swan, I guess, to find out about somebody, because you could be negotiating, something, and you could be focusing on the wrong thing about the negotiation when all of a sudden you discover that, it doesn't even matter really the price here. What they really want is this, and so, listening better.
Yeah. That was something that that I had taken notes on, was just kind of like listening to them, finding out what they really want the shirts. Like if it applies to our industry, is figuring out what they actually want them for versus just being like another customer being like, oh, it's a 4-color design. Oh, they said they wanted Gildan's. Let me just quote them on Gildan's, print the shirts on Gildan's, get them back to them. And then you find out that what they really wanted them for was a clothing line, or their biggest goal was to get as many wears or impressions on those shirts as possible. Yeah. So it's like actually figuring out what they need them for and applying that and talking them, not necessarily talking them into, but like giving them the product that they really do want, but they just don't know that that's what they want. The biggest example is like, I don't remember who told me this, but it was kind of like when a university comes to you or something and they're like, oh, we need 3,000 shirts for back to, like, everybody's back to school or whatever, like homecoming or whatever it's called. And they're like, oh, well, we just want the cheapest. We want the Gildan's or whatever. And then we want like a 1-color print on them. And then you really talk to them and you're like, hey, well, you could buy a Gildan for, say it's $5 or whatever. You can buy a Gildan printed for $5. Or so what's going to happen tell them, be like, what's going to happen with these Gildans is you're going to give them to your student body, and they're going to wear them once, and then they're going to wash them. And then after they wash them, they're going to be belly shirts. And what they're going to do with them is they're going to put them in their dresser drawer. And then the next time they have to paint their house, they're going to put that shirt on,
rip it up.
And that's what it's going to be for. Or you can spend 80 cents more and get like a Bella 3001, and that person's going to love the feel of that shirt and the fit, and they're just going to wear it like randomly all the time. So impressions wise, you're paying for 2,000 shirts at this price, and that'll be worn once. So that's 2,000 impressions. Or if you have 2,000 students that wear that shirt 55 times, it's 2,000 times 55. Is that worth 80 cents to you? Or, I mean, I'll do either. I'm just letting you know, like, you're going to get way more life out of this if you go this route. So I don't feel like that's a cheesy sales thing. I think that's more of just like informing them, and they're like, oh shit, you're right. And then they go that route.
Reframing it so they see the actual value.
Right.
Yeah. And you get all the people that are wanting to do the giveaway shirts and stuff, and you use that. I've used that plenty of times on people that were wanting to do 500 shirts just to give away at a fair or something. I'm just like, so do you want to just give it to them so that they look at your shirt once, or do you want them to actually wear it and it to be their favorite shirt?
Right. Because the end goal is impressions, not necessarily a giveaway. Like, yeah, you can give it to them. They're like, cool, thanks. And they'll never see it ever or use it ever again. Right. But if your goal is to make it to where everybody sees that logo on that shirt and is like, oh, I want to go there, or my dad used to go to that university or something. It's like they're going to see it over and over and over again.
We flipped that script last year on our quote requests on our website, where when it gets to, we just collect basic information, and when it gets to apparel, we have a checkbox of apparel, what we call apparel categories or apparel type. So in that list, it's like, do you just want are you looking for a soft shirt? Are you looking for a thick shirt? Are you looking for an eco-friendly shirt? And we you can click as many as you like. And then from there, the next thing is, if you have a brand preference, what is that? But then we use that information to sort of say, oh, okay, well, Joe's Plumbing, he doesn't want a Bella Canvas 3001.
Right.
He wants at least like a Jerseys or a Gildan 50-50 shirt, because he's going to beat the shit out of it.
Right.
And So we use that as a way to sort of collect that information to sort of accomplish the same thing, or basically accomplish the same thing.
Right. But again, it's just like what he said. It's basically listening to them and then figuring out what their actual end goal is.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
And then also, go ahead.
That kind of sets us apart from the cafe presses of the world or the online places. Because then when we have that conversation, we're like, well, this is an advertising cost, right? Like, you're not a t-shirt brand. This is your giveaway. It's advertising. So if you spend the extra 80 cents, then people will actually wear it more instead of just painting in it. So then your advertising dollars.
Right. Plus, when they go to that place to get those, discount shirts online, they're not actually talking to a person, and they don't know what actual shirt. They just order whatever they see, and then they get disappointed in the long run anyway. So,
yeah, all you have to do is go look at Custom Ink's Google review rating and read the reviews, because.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it's pure.
That was something that I knew another print shop where basically they hired a staff member that their whole job was to go on Twitter and like do hashtag custom ink, hashtag shirts, whatever, and then respond to all the people that
were mad.
Put a bad review or an angry ad on Twitter about those companies and say like, hey, just reaching out, wanted to help you out with your situation. And then they just like got sales just from bad reviews.
Yeah.
That ThreadX where Custom Ink was there. It was so uncomfortable because
yes, it was.
This guy from Custom Ink got up there and gave this talk. I don't even know about what, marketing or something, but everybody in the room was a screen print shop, and then there was questions at the end, and they're all like, fuck you, you're fucking us over.
Yeah. The best part about that whole thing when they went up to he went up to like the Darth Vader soundtrack. So everybody, he knew he was the bad guy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Why was Custom Ink there? I don't get it. What was the
They were a speaker.
But why?
Just because they were like their first event there. They were just tried to get like big name people in the industry, and Custom Ink was a big one. So I really wish I remember the guy's name. I know Amy, me and you and Ron had breakfast like one of the days, but I think the day before I had lunch, and like I just sat at like a random table, and the guy next to me, I kind of know the guy's name, but I can't think of what it is right now. He had like a black shirt on, like a black suit jacket and like black pants, and he had his hair slicked back and he had glasses on. And I sat next to him. I started talking to him, and he was like, "Oh, what do you do?" And the normal conversation stuff. And then I looked at his name tags. It says like your name and like what shop you're at. And it just said like something graphics or whatever. And I started talking to him. He's like, yeah, he's like, try not to spread this around, but like, this is my old company or my old shop. He's like, now I'm like the head of development at Amazon merch. And he was like, don't tell anybody, but I'm just here for like market research. And it was funny because like
him in the parking lot.
Yeah, I stabbed him. He's dead now.
Should have got the torches out, chased him out of town.
I don't even remember his name.
Right, I stabbed him, and he's in a bush somewhere in Arizona.
Yeah, I'll never forget. Either it was one of the conference speakers, or it was just casual side conversation. But somebody was like, "Your biggest competitor is Amazon."
Yeah,
and I was like, "What?"
But again, that's the same thing as like that I'm not really afraid of. And I actually had this conversation with Matt Marcotte the other day, just as buddies talking. It was kind of like we were talking about turnaround, and realistically, there's the people who come to us for like a certain style and a certain quality, and what we really offer. They don't bat an eye at anything. They're just like, I want to work with you. Here's my artwork. Here's my money. Like, print the job. Like, I'll get it when I get it. Or they say they need it by a certain day, and we'll hit that day. But like the people who are just gouging on price all the time, or need it in 2 days, like I'm totally fine with them going to Amazon and getting pieces of shit shirts. Like, that's fine with me. You're not my ideal customer. So like I said, the custom inks, the Amazons, all that stuff, like, yeah, it sucks that they're like in the market and they're taking stuff, but really, honestly, they're kind of doing us a favor. and taking all those shit customers that we don't want. The ones that bog us down with like 35 emails where they want 12 shirts and it's like they're yelling at us about price. And then when they get the shirts, they're pissed anyway for some reason that wasn't in our control. Those are the people we want to be like, oh, hey, didn't you know Amazon sells stuff now?
Yep.
Like
we dealt with that a week ago with a first-time customer, minimum order, and there's nothing wrong with the shirts, but we got an angry email the day she received them because we didn't tape the box up with enough tape. Oh, God. She's like, next time, make sure that you tape the edges. She typed out a description of how we should have taped up the box that we shipped her. And she's like, it didn't bust open or anything, but it might have. I'm like, what?
I didn't piss in your box, but I might have. Dave, you're used to that, right? We piss in all your orders.
But that's why I keep coming back to you.
Right.
Again and again and again.
It's the acidity.
Yes. Yes.
COVID doesn't spread itself, guys.
The one thing I thought was funny, like we all joke about the mirroring, but I feel like mirroring is definitely something I want to try more. I know it sounds skeezy, but it's funny. They were talking about the statistic that like it's 70% more effective for like waiters and waitresses. Like they get higher tips. Like if they mirror your order when you're taking it. So like, you know that they got it right because they read it back to you.
Yeah.
It's like, I know that personally, like when I go to the drive-thru or whatever, and they don't read it back to you. They're like 10:32, see you at the window. And it's like, you're hoping it's right. But when they read it back to me, I'm always like, like they're going to get it right. And even if they don't get it right, it's still like that moment I feel better knowing that like they got what I was saying.
I think that kind of ties into, it almost ties into like how, we're so emotional, how we talked about that. Like actually our emotions will sometimes let us get the best of a negotiation. You'd rather almost sometimes take a worse deal because you're, in spite of or whatever, like you'll cut off your nose to spite your face, because of whatever, and we're emotional over it instead of doing the rational thing. You know what I mean? And so I know that's kind of like how with the waiters or the service industry is how if they come to the table and they just say, they repeat your order, you kind of like, oh, they get me, like they know exactly what I want, instead of say, okay, great, and walk away. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And so,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's a certain level of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
The waiter who doesn't write your order down.
Yeah.
And doesn't repeat it to you either. And then they just walk away, and the entire time you're just in a cold sweat. You're like, I swear, if I'm waiting 20 minutes for the wrong food, I'm going to be very sad.
That is so stressful. That happened to me the other day, and I was like, nope. I was ordering for my kids, and they're picky, and I was like, oh, he's going to fuck it up.
Well, at that point, if they bring you the right food, instead of going, wow, they did such a great job, you're just like, okay, good, everything's fine. It doesn't pay off for the waiter or the waitress. You're just like, okay, good, my food's okay. Not like, wow, this guy is so great.
Right.
It's kind of funny.
I want to kind of part of his point with the listening, the slow it down, listen is not just that you hear them, but they know that they've been heard, and that sets things better for you as well.
Yeah,
I like that slow it down part for sure. I've even done that like with buying a house or something, and they'll counter, and it'll say on there, hey, counter back by a certain time. And I always push it to almost the last minute, because I never come back fast with it. I always wait it out, because I thought that gave us leverage. Like, oh, it's whatever. And here's our counter offer, instead of coming back right away. So slowing the negotiation down is another one that I forgot all about. And that was actually a good point.
I thought it was,
just like
crazy that. And I keep bringing up West Wing because it kind of blows my mind. Like they're constantly negotiating with like other countries and all this other stuff. And like one of the things, and I literally just watched this episode where basically the president of the United States is talking to China, and like they're sitting in chairs and there's a translator on one side and a translator on the other side. And they're kind of talking to each other, but they're constantly waiting for the translator to finish. And it was funny. He mentioned that in this, that like, even though the guy from China probably knows English, they still have a translator so that it gives them that extra period of time to process the information and figure out the best way. Because if me and Andy were just having an argument back and forth or a negotiation, you kind of feel on the spot to be like, oh shit. And then you say something you probably shouldn't have said. But like, because they get to talk to somebody else and then wait for a translator to say the whole thing, they can gather their thoughts and like
the pause,
like actually have a good
I do that all the time with emails. You know, I'll get an email and I'll just start typing away. And then I don't hit send. I stand up and I walk away and I come back and then I erase the whole thing and write 3 sentences, you know, that are totally different because they would have been
my
bad.
wife reread.
That's what happens when you text me and I see the
everything.
dots and then it goes away. And then I see dots and it goes away. And then you just send me XOXO anyway.
Just looking for the perfect GIF, Dylan.
Right. I know.
I think my favorite chapter in that book that I related with the most was the Red Toyota chapter. Has anyone ever seen the movie Fargo?
Yes.
Yeah.
You remember when he's got the customers coming in and they're screaming and cursing at him in the beginning of the movie?
At the car dealership?
Yeah, the car dealership. And he's like, all right, let me go talk to my boss. And he goes in there, he just leans against the door and asks him how his day's going. And then he walks back in there. He's like, all right. And they do a deal with him anyway. I ended up watching that before I bought my Toyota. And I kind of related to the book a little bit during that chapter. That's why I enjoyed it the most. I basically just kind of delayed the negotiation as well. Every time I would just be like, no, I can't do that. Or I would say, oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, I'm still not going to be able to do that price. And I would have my price set. It wasn't as perfect as this guy, but I definitely related to that. And I just kept thinking about the movie Fargo. And I'm like, this guy's just going to the back, leaning against his boss's door, and just coming back to me in 2-3 minutes. So I kind of used that. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I'm a super, like I said, I'm a sucker when it comes to that stuff. Like, I know full well, like, it's your job to go to those kind of places, a car dealership especially, and be like fight for a better price. But like, I literally just bought a brand new Highlander like a year ago, and I think I was at the dealership for like 30 minutes. I walked in and I was like, I like the gray one. And he was just like, all right, here's the paperwork. This is the price. You know, this is a really good deal right now, all this stuff. And I was like, give me a pen. And it was just like, I did it. I was gone. And the best part was I was like, I feel good about this. You know, I did this thing. And I literally went back to like, I think the next day I got pizza at our local pizza place. And I was talking to the guy there because he just got like a new truck too. And he's like, oh, I was just there a couple of days ago and I got like this rate or whatever. And I was like, I was just there too. And then he told me his rate and I was like, I got screwed.
And Toyota's on drop 2 weeks later.
Right. It was just like, dude, like, I know full well that I need to do this, but because I don't like confrontation, I was just like, I'll pay whatever you say. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm so bad at that.
So here's a question for you. When you negotiate and you have to have the deal go through, and you know that in the back of your head, how does that change things? Now, I'm not talking like you're going to have to close your shop or anything like that, but you need it for whatever. You can't pass it up. But on the flip side, you do want to get the best price, the best rates. What do you do? Because
Dave, I'm not talking about haggling prices with you.
The whole reason I'm here,
get out of my head. You're basically like, how do I get a better price from you?
Yeah, after he tells you he got taken by the Toyota dealership.
Here's the funny part. When was the last time we argued about price?
Dude, we've worked together for what, like 15 years now?
15 years. And I can't remember the last time we even talked about price.
Your price is actually way higher than most customers.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but seriously, what do you guys do when, and in light of this book, so you got a deal, okay, so I do a ton of huge events, right? Like that's how I make my money. Well, not anymore with the pandemic, but hopefully eventually. And so I'm bidding on like these $100,000 events. I need that event. I need it to happen. Not, again, my family's not going to starve, but I need a certain amount of them. But on the flip side, sometimes I'm getting screwed on the kickback that I have to give to the event. Like I have to give, 15, 25% sometimes. And if people tell me that's way too low, but I need this event, Right. So how does that change your thinking, or what, how do you go into this?
I feel like going back to this book, like a good thing you should do for real is like that kid who had the apartment. Mm-hmm. Like he knew, like they upped the rent and he knew what he needed to get out of it. He knew what he needed to pay, and he played the game. He was just like, you could say for an event the other way, you could do the high price knowing full well that you'll take this price. And then to them, it makes it seem like you drop down to where, like, you made up a random number and you were like, oh, I need to get $35,726 out of this, or I have to sell my house and my kids are going to eat, leftover McDonald's. Like,
I think though that people do get caught up in that desperate mode. I mean, we bid differently throughout the year. So if we're in overtime, we're never discounting. I mean, why should we? Here we are, we're stacked up, we're in overtime. These are my prices, never budge, right? Unless I'm bidding on something that's out further, like a few months from now or something like that. But we never negotiate ever. But if we're in a situation like now, we're in January.
I was just going to say the same thing. For me, it was like all year long, I'd be like, nah, we can't do it. Like it's going to be more strain on people and whatever. Like I've turned down really big clients that were like, hey, we're going to bring you like $2 million a year. And I just looked at it and I was like, but it's not worth it. Like, yeah, it's $2 million. And for me as the owner, I could be like, cool, I could buy that lake house I want. But to all my employees and to the staff and the headaches that we would have to do and working late, it's just not worth it. Like,
so I think though that to your question is that you are more aggressive. We are more aggressive. I'm not sure that this is the right position to take after reading this book, but we're more aggressive right now. We bid on a lot. I put out bids today that I looked and I was just more aggressive on because I think it's sort of spread out. I think there's some quotes that we aren't aggressive on, and then there's some that we are. And then you just don't know which ones will win and we won't, but maybe because we're more aggressive on some than others, it'll all just, come out in the wash. I don't know, but it's kind of like the mood of the day too, because today I was like, let's bring in some work, and so just that's how it is in January. But I can tell that usually a few weeks from now, it's just not the case. We never budge. So I think that maybe it does change if you are in a situation where you need the work, but that's going to be that's going to be the tough part. And so maybe Dylan's right. Maybe it's that, like, you're like that
Always.
kid. You still try. Still try. You still try to. I mean, I've found that if I put a price, it depends. Like if you're bidding on something and it's a sealed bid and the winner is the winner, but a lot of times we'll bid on something and they'll come back and say, oh, like we really want to work with you, and that the price is this, and they'll counter. You know what I mean? So I know if there's like a high probability of a counter, then why not just put out a little bit higher anchor? But if which is different, I guess, than a bid. Your bids may be that they're sealed, and if you lose, you lose. I don't know.
Not necessarily like that. It's more so I would lose the relationship. So like it's this massive event, but they take 25% of my gross sales. And everybody keeps telling me that's way too high. And so I know I need to go in here and try to find a way to negotiate that, but I'm not entirely sure I don't have any negotiating power now. Like I
feel like you do though, Dave. Like I'm going to blow smoke up your ass for a second, because I feel like what you bring to the table is way more than a lot of the guys that are trying to do what you're doing to this specific niche can even come close to. Like you're a designer first, and like you grew up in those circles that these people are trying to do things for. Right. So like, exactly what they want, what's cool, like what is going to sell like way more shirts. Like other people could come into the same thing with less experience and be like, oh yeah, we could, you know, make up some shitty designs and like come to your event and sell, but they're not your design. They're not like your stuff. They're not like original, custom, hand drawn, you know, like cool designs. And you have the experience. Like you have, like, you know, you work there and you know, have years and years of design experience of exactly what they want. So I feel like you can easily just walk in there with your, you know, your head up and chest out and be like, hey, I'm worth this. And you should play hardball. I feel like, yeah, it's going to suck to lose it, but I feel like you have so much power in that space. Like it's crazy that you do so well in that space. But then when you really look at it, you're actually really, really good at that stuff.
Mm-hmm. You're negotiating each one. Like you don't have your, like, I give 15%, but like each event you have to negotiate differently.
Well, it's all, I've been grandfathered in. So, you know, I beat out the other guys and they're like, well, they paid 25%. So then I'll do anything to get the event. You know what I mean? And I get it and I'm happy. And then I go, holy crap, I just paid them $25,000 for nothing, you know, and I start looking at, you know, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I'm also trying to figure out some of the non-monetary things that you can trade, right? Like, I think there's things that are non-monetary and I'm just trying to figure that out. I thought that was a great point in the book. Some of the, you know, figuring out the non-monetary benefits that you can have in a deal. That's huge. I think, I mean, but I don't even, sometimes I have to think, how can I benefit from this? But you know, even just a daydream on it. I mean, I don't know what, like with clients and whatnot, there's gotta be non-monetary benefits beyond even referrals, but I'm not sure what that is. But man, I thought that was a great point in the book.
Yeah. I liked that too. I like that part too. You're talking like when he took, I think they advertised in the Lawyer magazine for him or something like that.
They put him on the cover, which probably who knows what that was worth to him. You know, I mean, like, you know, let's say he got 4 more clients for $100,000 each. You know, I don't know, but and you look at that. I wonder, like with, you know, you're printing the shirts potentially for the Chiefs, right? I don't know what's a non-monetary benefit there, and what would you even want? I don't know, but I think we always need to be looking for that, right?
I feel like for you though, Dave, it's kind of like with us in live printing, like you're going to one of these huge events and all the people that are coming to those events are people that could be way more potential customers for you. Yeah. So like, that's your benefit. Like, yeah, 25% might be the cost of doing business. And you're looking at that event of like, okay, I sold $100,000 worth of stuff. I need to give them $25,000. Like you're not just walking away with $75,000. You're walking away with $75,000 plus like 100 new clients that are going to get you $75,000 and like so on. So like, I feel like a huge gain you have there is the potential to just get way more customers. Mm-hmm. So you need to look at that though too. Like I said, with us in live printing, it's like we go to an event and there's always a ton of people that are like, I own a business, I want shirts. And it's like, we just constantly get business from that. So like I said, I don't know your niche and I don't know like what the going rate is. I don't know if 25% is too high, but I feel like you're still making out pretty well.
Right. And so, and then sometimes just, you know, you just need to say, hey, I made $75,000. Like, you know, like shut up and, you know,
this weekend too, not like
in 4 days,
a year.
You know?
Right.
So,
well, I think it's also a great opportunity to combine some of the techniques that are in the book, because as weird as it is to admit, 2020 gave you your bargaining chip on a silver platter, because you are based in live events, which have been decimated. And using the technique from the book, a targeted empathy, you can approach them with a targeted, a specific empathy angle with a specific number to just chisel it down a little bit, where you're using those techniques to tap into their psychology just to get them to come down a little. Like, look, we've 2020 just devastated us completely. Maybe your family-owned business and yada yada, and you play up the empathy thing, and then you hit them with, I really need to really make this work for me. I need to be at 23.8%.
Right.
And then for them, it's like, well, that's so specific. There must be a reason for that. And yeah, like we want to take care of these local small business. And then in your case, a live event person where they know already what you went through last year. And then before you know it, they're like, for them, then they're like, well, what's like 1.2%, like whatever. And so that's an angle that you can use by combining different techniques together in the negotiation.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Thanks, guys. This is excellent stuff.
Yeah. I could piggyback on that a little bit just from experience. I was in pest control for 8-9 years. Odd numbers really work well. I always had to negotiate things down, and I would always end up high, and you try to match up in the middle. There's something about odd numbers or specific numbers, kind of like how this book was saying. Like once you hit like a certain number, if you're giving even numbers for some reason, like I'm just going to use my pest control numbers. If I tried throwing out like $98 for the service, it wouldn't go. You go $99 and it would work every time. There's something about odd numbers that end up working constantly over and over. And so if you're doing like 99 and 23 cents or something, or 23.25% or something like that, it tends to just make them think a little bit more, versus the even numbers seem to be more like the deals that you see on commercials and TVs, and everybody's kind of gotten used to that. So if you're throwing out an odd number instead, it tends to work a little bit better.
Right. Yeah. And round numbers have a tendency to just sound made up. I mean,
exactly.
We do a very large annual job every year at the end of November, which is great for us to kind of close out the year with that. And every year they're trying to get us to come down. And instead of us spitting out, it's going to be 550, then we'll spit out like, look, the best we can do is, 693. And it's such a weird number for them that it's that mental connection of
it's that you actually calculated it.
Right.
That's exactly what you need.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Reality is you should be actually calculating it. But when you haven't, then you can throw out just a bizarre number. Even it's like, well, I really only need to make like, 450 to make this be a killer deal. You throw out a bigger number that's also specific. And so chances are they're like, you're sitting across from a guy like Dylan. They're like, oh yeah, give me the pen.
Yeah, you say that specific number.
I'm a putz.
You say that specific number of 693, and then also offer like your, lunchbox or whatever, or your CD collections, like some weird other item. That's what he said to do anyway. Is just throw out something, some arbitrary, something, but it doesn't have really any value to you, but just throws them off completely. Like, wow, he's giving, this is his like calculated number. And then also he's giving me this thing too. Like that's all he has.
And you can sandwich. You can also do that.
Andy puts a lock of human hair in every order.
Ooh. You can also do that post deal.
That costs extra, Dylan.
That's why you have to wear that hat.
You can also do that post deal. We outsourced a job because we were so busy, fortunately, at the end of last year, and the rate was fine and everything was great. Everybody was happy. And after the deal, I had my office manager look up went to their Instagram page, looked up where's the last place they got food from, and found whatever local pizza place was around the corner. And totally unannounced, we sent their whole crew lunch. And sure enough, as soon as I got the notice on my phone that it was delivered, 5 minutes later, the guy called me.
That's a classy move. I like that.
Do it and whatever. And that's the type of stuff that David, with you, the following year, people remember that shit.
Yeah, and it wasn't just...
Yeah, it's $80 to feed a group of guys or a whole crew or whatever. But people remember little things like that.
It wasn't just any random pizza either. It was pizza that they had on their page that they liked or whatever. So it was personal.
Yeah. The place was in New Jersey, so we're we better not fuck this up. So going to Barstool Pizza.
It was Sbarro.
No.
Authentic New York pizza. Don't fuck that one up. You get in trouble.
Well, guys, I don't know. Thanks I've never been in a book club before, so I hope this is. We don't know what we're doing.
Andy's got to go to bed. We can keep doing this if you want.
I have a couple of things I wanted to say before, and that one was want to announce the next book. I also want to say, is this a good time? Because we tried to decide a time. It's really tough because here in St. Louis, it's 8:44. For Amy, it's what?
6:45.
6:45. For Dylan, it's whatever.
9:44.
9:44.
44 in Jersey.
And 40. Yeah, same time in Jersey. And here we have other people. There's people that are on that listen to the church show that are in Europe and they're in Australia. So how do we make this work? I don't know. But we could do it on a different time. If Thursdays suck or if evenings suck, we could do it on the weekends. But I don't know. What do you? Just looking for a little input on as far as time goes.
This day
worked for me.
Worked.
Those were good.
It was good.
It also works for me. Yes.
Cool. Well, we have our next book, which I think Amy, you're going to love this one. So. and then
can't be trusted.
And then you can maybe we'll give you the next choice. How's that? But
Sure.
I have this book that's supposed to be great, and it is Greenlights.
The McConaughey.
Yeah. So, and you don't have to have this cover on here if you don't think he's attractive. He's a really good looking guy. But they also have this one. You just have a green light. Whoops. They have that.
My wife already has it.
There you go. So you can just borrow it.
The thing is that I wasn't sold when Andy told me about that book. Like I was like, okay, yeah, I guess we could do that. And then I ended up listening to the Armchair Expert with him on the other day when I drove to IKEA to get this beautiful yellow chair. And just a lot of his stories like super resonated with me, being like grew up with like weird parenting styles and like hustling to like get to where he is and like all this other stuff. So like it's nice the whole idea with book club is that we were going to get out of our comfort zone and not just read like screen printing books or just anything to do with like just straight business. It's more just like stuff that we can relate to and then talk about. Like I feel like most of this conversation that we all had, a lot of stuff was like from the book, but it was very, this is what I want to do. These are my questions, kind of things. So
it's an autobiography. Yeah.
I think what he did was he's been journaling since he was 14, and he had this giant collection of just thoughts and ideas, and he hired somebody, a ghostwriter, and it fell through. I think it was maybe because of COVID or something. And it fell through. And so he said, what am I going to do? And his wife said, I think you know what you got to do. And so he took all of this stuff and then went out to the desert and did it himself, put it together himself. And so
it's surprisingly good.
You read it.
I'm partway through it.
Okay.
And
you're cheating.
You have a head start.
You're disqualified.
of this one. It's not what I expected at all. And it's really interesting. It's good.
Okay,
what's the name of it?
Greenlights.
Greenlights, yeah. With and we'll share that later. I guess did that last time.
Did you ever see that motivational speech he did for the college where he says, with someone like, they asked me who my hero is now, and it's me in 10 years, and then they asked me again in 10 years, and he says, well, it's me in another 10 years.
Right.
He's great, man. I look forward to that.
And that he's always chasing that that person to be better, and so forever, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's a pretty cool dude. I mean, I know he did rom-coms back long ago, and he walked away from that. He took a risk and just walked away from that and did a completely different kind of movie. And anyway, I'm excited to read it. That's the next one, and We'll meet again in a month.
My favorite thing is I just realized that the audio version is read by him.
Oh,
even better.
All right.
On this one.
Yeah.
I'm a big reader, but I might listen to this one then.
Yeah. with your shirt off.
Good choice.
Everybody has to listen with their shirt off.
What were you saying, Amy?
Everybody? No, I like the choice a lot. And, I thought we were just going to only do like really business books, but a lot of the books, like autobiographies I've read, are so helpful in business, even though they're not specifically meant for business. So
I feel like anything you can relate to and like turn into how you feel about your business and stuff like that, or how to improve and all that other stuff too. So
yeah, that's a cool choice.
All right. I think that's all I've got.
There was one thing I wanted to talk about, and if you guys want to get out of here, tell me to fuck off. But
I'm down.
The biggest thing was the 7:38:55 rule. I felt like that was the biggest thing I got out of this book, was that rule. And the biggest thing is like, I've done interviews, I've talked to people, and I'm always like, yeah, like my success tool was that like I just email people and I create relationships online and all this other stuff. And it's like, this made me really kind of want to do more Zoom meetings with customers, or do more phone calls, or do more like, hey, let's go to lunch kind of things. Because it's true. Like, you don't get the body language. You don't, like on an email, there's so many times where a customer emails you something and you're like, oh, how did I piss them off? But really, you don't know how they were actually typing that, or, their actual, right. Like you don't know anything about it. So it's like, it really makes me want to do more stuff like this, like face-to-face conversations with people. So that was my biggest takeaway from the whole thing. So
we have two main girls in customer service. They're at the front, not the front counter, but their desks are sort of behind it, and they have phones. And so one of them is the first person up for a customer, and then the other one would be the second, and they kind of rotate if one's on the phone or whatever. But they'll write emails, or they'll receive emails, and they'll be going back and forth in this email conversation with the customer, and they'll come to me and they'll say, I don't know, I don't get it. Like, what's going on with them? And I'm like, did you call them? And then they just stare at me. And I'm like, well, let's call them. And they're like terrified. They're like, I don't know. What do you mean call them? I mean, well, let's just pick up the phone, call them, and ask them what they really mean, because you're here trying to interpret something without any tone or context. And it's probably not what you think. And so we'll call them, and we'll conference call in. Like, I'll put them on speaker and say, hey, I'm here with Claire. And what's going on? And so and if it is something bad, and if we did interpret it right, we'll just fix it. Because why? Because we're just talking to them, like a human being, instead of some email that they maybe don't understand. So yeah, you're right. I love that part too.
Well, the funny thing was, it immediately made me think of like when we were probably like a year and a half into business. One of the things I told Chris, or even I think it was me that was doing it, was like, I'm just going to hit up anybody. Like, not necessarily anybody, but like, I'm not afraid of a certain level of customer. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just going to go after like tattoo shops or something. I was like, I'm going to go after like MLB teams. I was like, I'm just going to hit up like anybody. So I ended up emailing the head of procurement for the New York Mets, like Citi Field, New York Mets, whatever. And I hit them up, and they were like, they got back to me and were like, yeah, we'd love to set up a meeting and talk like price and like what you guys can offer and all this other stuff. And we were like, yeah, like like, let's do it. Like we were in a fucking 1-car garage with a 4-color silver press, 2-station, and a small dryer. There's no fucking way we could actually print what they wanted, but we were like, aiming for whatever. So he's like, yeah, we can set up a meeting on, Wednesday at noon or whatever. And we're like, okay. They're like, oh, do you want to do it here at Citi Field? And we were like, yeah, we definitely want to do that. So,
oh yeah.
Me and Chris were talking about it, and we're like, yeah, let's go. And we're like, what do we wear? Like, what do we do? We've never done a meeting like this at all before. And like, I literally wore, I think what I've got on, like a gray, at the time it was like when everybody was wearing American Apparel hoodies with the white strings. And I was like, I'm going to wear a hoodie and jeans. And like, I always wear like a black cap or whatever. And Chris had like a nice button up shirt on and all this other stuff. We drove to New York City, which is like a 2.5 to 3 hour drive. And we get to Citi Field. We're sitting in the waiting room, and it was super intimidating. It was like marble floors, like where the receptionist comes up to you and she's like, "Oh, can I get you guys like a Perrier and a sandwich?" And we're like, we do not belong here. Like, we're like super like, oh shit. So anyway, like the guy we were supposed to meet was like the receptionist, or not receptionist, but the guy under like the head guy. And the funny thing is his name was Eddie Murphy. Super like bro white guy named Eddie Murphy. And he's like, actually, Eddie can't make it today. He has another meeting. So we're going to have you go ahead and meet with the head guy. And we were like, oh shit, like this got way more intense now. So like we ended up going in his office and the guy immediately laughs. He's like, "Oh, I can always tell you artsy types or whatever." And it kind of sounded like a slant toward us because like how we were dressed, but he was also like, "You guys are cool, whatever." We sat down and we started having a conversation with him. He's like, "So, we're like, how was the drive over or whatever?" He thought we were like from Manhattan. Like he thought we were like 2-minute drive or we just got on the train. We're like, "No, we drove from upstate New York, like 3 hours." And he was like, "Are you serious?" And we're like, "Yeah." He's like, "We could have done like, like a live chat or a phone call. Like you did not have to drive here." And we were like, "Yeah, we drove." And like, we started just bullshitting with this guy. And it was like super, like as soon as he knew that, he knew like we were serious and we really wanted to have this meeting. And he ended up telling us straight up, he was like, "This is what we paid last year." They were just looking for the shirts to like shoot out of the guns and stuff at the stadium. Like they'd be like, "Oh, we need 10,000 white shirts with like a one color Mets logo or whatever." And he was like, "Yeah, this is the price we want to do." And we looked at it and we didn't care what the price was. We were going to do it. We calculated it. We were like, "Yeah," like me and Chris were like whispering back and forth, like thinking about it. And we knew we were going to say yes, no matter what. We're like, "Yeah, actually this is a price we can do." He's like, "Oh, definitely." Like, he's like, "We'll set things up. We'll get things going." And then we were so fucking pumped. Like we went to Times Square and like ate lunch, did this whole thing, went back to the shop, like puffing our chests out. We got this whole order. And then like a month later, the Mets like almost declared bankruptcy. And they were just like, they didn't order anything extra that season. They were like, "Oh, we're not going to order anything. We're not going to do anything because we need to like pinch pennies." But it was just funny. Like the only reason why we got that order that never actually happened was because we made face and like showed up and talked and bullshitted instead of just sending him an email of like coldly, like, "This is the price." And they would have been like, "We're just going to go with our last vendor. It's easy. We know them. We've dealt with them." It was like we actually showed up and had a meeting and like talk shit with this guy. So I just think that's super important.
Relating that back to the book is that's what he talks about with giving it a name. What's the Chris discount?
Right.
You went there in person and you weren't his old vendor that was just sending some crusty old invoice duplicated from last year. You were a fresh face and a name.
Right.
You were a person.
Mm-hmm. So I would just say to me, that was the best part of reading this book was just that, like the 7:38:55 rule. So Amy, did you have anything? I know I didn't want to single you out, but like, what did you hate about this book before we leave?
Oh, I said it. It was just the fact that in all of his negotiations, it's just based on a premise of there's a clear good guy and a clear bad guy. Right. And I don't feel like that's true in business or even buying a car. I mean, anything, So it felt manipulative and it felt out of my comfort zone and unnatural. But then again, I tried one tactic and it worked within minutes.
Right.
Which tactic was it?
How to get a response from an email.
Okay.
What was the subject of your email again?
Oh, it's embarrassing. So the idea in the book was if the person you're writing to, if
I
you're
have it written
presenting
down
it so that their answer is no, and if they don't feel no, then they're going to respond right away. And so you're supposed to present the email in such a way that you're saying, oh no, and then they're like,
he said, "Have you given up on this project?" That was his subject line.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's a little more tactful than what I wrote, which was, "So you're saying that's a no?" And then I sent it and I was like, ooh, cringe, like, ooh, weird. And then 2 minutes later, he responded and he's like, no to what? And I was like, no to that email I sent you, asshole. You know, I was like, oh, no to working with us. What do you mean? No, you know, I was like, and like explained it again. And he's like, oh yeah, no, of course. We love working with you. We're totally going to work with you this year. If we have anything that comes up, we'll let you know. He owns a marketing agency. And so I was just like, God damn it. Like that really worked, but I can't really talk like that every day.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make that the subject to my next MailChimp blast.
So
I know. I kind of want to try it. I want to try it and then make something funny in the subject or in the actual email.
I wonder what Chris would say in defense of that. You know, like, you know, most of the examples in this book are, you know, there's a bad guy or whatever. I think he would probably have something to say to that. You know, I just wonder what it would be.
Well, do you remember that chapter where he said never compromise? He said compromising is like you can't decide whether to wear green shoes or blue shoes in the morning, so you wear one of each, and that doesn't work for anybody. You shouldn't go out in the world like that. And I just disagree on basic premise. I mean, I've spent my whole parenting life trying to teach compromise and like work together. Mm-hmm. So that went against everything. I don't think compromising is wrong.
I feel like his goal is just like it's his career to be able to talk anybody into anything.
Yeah.
It's like, so he's proud to puff his chest and say, these are the tools to like, you know, be very successful in any negotiation. So I get going into this that this dude's job was to talk people out of killing people. So like, he's very happy to be like, I can do that really well. And here's how you can also buy a Toyota.
Yeah, thanks.
I also bought my car the way you did, Dylan, and I did it on my own. And
hey,
I walked away.
I'm not mad about it. I have a car now, and it's fine.
I felt like everyone around me was just like, oh, what was she? My parents were like, oh God, she got taken. Oh, she'd never done that by herself. And I'm like, well, fuck you. I got a car.
Yeah. As my dad drives a fucking jalopy, I have a brand new car, so he can suck it. Well, on that note, guys, thanks for doing this with us. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you.
We'll start the new book and we'll meet at the end of February.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Enjoyed it. Fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks again for doing this.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
Thanks
Have a good night. Have a good night.
See ya.
I just got to freeze.
That closes down.